What's going on, YouTube? Happy May the 4th, or as I like to call the entire month, this is the May. I just wanted to take a few minutes to show you guys my modified Sideshow Collectibles GROGU. As you've seen on this channel before, I've modified the Mattel GROGU before, back when he was just the child or Baby Yoda. And then Sideshow released the child. Now Hot Toys has released their GROGU. And I always thought that the Sideshow, because Legacy worked with them on that, was the best mold and the best model, without a doubt. No contest, even though Hot Toys has some articulation and movable mouth and things like that. I always felt like the Sideshow was the better piece, but it was static. And that was very disappointing. Then a few people went online and modified it so that you could pose it. And I thought that that was extremely doable. So I knew that one day I'd get my hands on a Sideshow and that one day I would modify it so that it could be posable. Yes, I'll pick you up in a minute. And so we have achieved posable GROGU. So this little guy, not only is he posable, the hands can twist, the head can move left and right. It can also tilt left and right, and it can tilt up and down. So this was full range of motion. This is exactly what we were looking for. And this entire build has just been a lot of fun. And what's really interesting is just the modifications that you can do even to the cloak and things like that. It's really cool. This was originally like stitched to its shoulders. I cut that off so this would hang more. And what we were going to do is continue to go in. We're going to put in some shoulder pads so that this sits up a little bit on him and just blocks him out just a little bit better. So I'm going to show you guys what I changed, how it works. And we're going to take a closer look at GROGU. All right, so as I mentioned, we have completely gone in and hacked to pieces this little guy. And so a lot of people have done this mod, and very few have really, in my opinion, taken it to the maximum level that it could be. So I'm going to go ahead and unfasten and go over a little bit of the changes that we made. I'm going to explain what I used and why, and how that impacts future choices. So as I said, when you cut the stitching off, this whole jump bundle neck piece becomes much more open and loose, and it gives you the ability to manipulate the neck a lot more. I'm going to use that to include the Beskar chainmail when I get some time. So this is what we use. This is a standard little Flexi Tripod. And depending on how old yours is, they're not the most flexible. So you got to pick and choose or sand as needed. But as you can see, these joints connect and do different things. And so I'm really big on these for a couple of different reasons. One, I can change the length of his arms at will. So as you can see, I have about 3 joints out into standard posability right now. So that gives him the ability to hang the arm, which gives it the exact same length as it had when it was still attached. But when you go out wide, it looks like it might be a little longer, but when you pull it forward, because of where the shoulder joint is, it looks a little shorter. And so if you want to pose the hand forward and make it a little shorter, you can add another link. So if I wanted to, I could snap that arm right off and add several more to it. And now he's obscenely long-armed. And so you could do little mods like that, which is kind of fun. Actually, I need one of these. So how did I do the arms? Well, first of all, you'll notice that there's still a lip on this. And this piece of plastic, when you cut it away, you'll see that the plastic is embedded down into the hand. You've seen it on many mods. So what I did was I took one of these, drilled a pilot hole through the center. You see that little piece there? I just used that as my guide, drilled a pilot hole. And then I put a whole screw in there, and I just screwed the thing right in. And that worked out really, really well. And the reason I really enjoy that is because not only can I manipulate the arm, but I have the ability to also twist the palm to create different shapes. So it's like, you give me You give me chicky nuggies, please? You give me chicky nuggies? The next thing is I did the same thing with the head. So if I wanted to, I could snap off his head and show you that the exact same joint. Now, I currently have this joint kind of glued in place. And what I did was I dremeled out the center, shoved one of these guys up in there in hot glue, and then sealed it with hot glue. So that's in there. And then in the body itself is the base of the tripod, and I've just set that. There's actually a screw, same philosophy, screw into the base resin that gives it the weight, and then I drilled a hole in the bottom of one of these so that it would just sit. I used JB Weld, or you can use any epoxy adhesive to put it in place, and then I put spray foam in there to just sort of seal it and hold it in place, and it does. And so what I did was, depending on where the head is, you got to look at where you want to put it. And then I chose to make him a little taller. I could have embedded this a little deeper into the head, but I decided to give him just a little bit more height for 3 reasons. One, it was a lot easier to get the flexibility that I wanted, which is thing one, you know, so he can really tilt his head and be adorable. He can twist left, he can twist right. I had to Dremel and cut a ton of this out, and by the time I had done that, I thought it would just be a lot easier if I just simply raised the head and then maybe built up the shoulders a little bit, made the arms a little longer, and just made him a little bigger. Oh, these pop too. I forgot about that. Let me put him back in. So, but I made him a little taller for that reason. The second reason that I made him that tall was because if I really hated it, I could tweak it and drop it back in. So I thought it'd be easier to start with more than less. And after I tried the first height, I was really happy with it, so I left it. The third reason is, in Season 3 and whatnot, he's getting older, he's going to get a little taller. I just figured I'll make him just a little bit taller. So that was fun. And again, the same principle applied with the hand. It's the same exact thing that I did with the other arm. And so now he can do, you know, me, me, me. You know, he can reach up. I left a lot of this shoulder. If I wanted more range of motion, I could just go right in and just cut that right out, and I may do that, so it's sort of a work in progress. I'm trying to see what poses I like the most that I could go in and change. But if you look, there's not a ton of filler here, because I may want to just cut this right off and get this the hell out of the way. So I may do that. But it gives me the option, and that's the one reason I really like these lengths versus the padded ones. You could take these apart, and the ability to go back and alter your work is huge. So the next thing that I have to mod is, of course, there's this big open gap around the head. You can see that when the cloak is on. So that means I need to go in and put a little bit of a neck seal around him. So what I'm going to do is go get a piece of latex or something and get it colored very similar to the skin and just wrap it like a bib around his head and reattach it so it just sits over the piece. I'll probably put the foam underneath it to give him the shoulders that I want. And then we're back in business in terms of how I want that to look. I did not modify the feet. I didn't feel I needed to at this time. I can go back in and use the same process, but what's weird about doing the feet is if you want the thing to sit, you're going to have to cut so much of the cradle away. I'm worried about the stability of him standing. And I'm not exactly sticking the thing in a pram like I did with the other smaller Yoda that I made. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave him so that he stands up on his little base and, you know, it preserves the general look, but it just gives me that ability to do a bit more. Now, in terms of trinkets and things like that, buying all the different GROGUs really does give you a lot of options. So this came with a Costco 2-pack kind of situation where it was the same Mattel one that we always had, or Hasbro, I don't even remember this one, I think it was Mattel. And it came with this dish, and it came with a pendant, and it came with this little frog guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and attach a magnet to him so that with the magnet hand, he can hold his frog just like this, and that is oh, that's going to look great. So I'm going to be super on board with the one-eyed frog situation. This might have actually come with the 7-inch one, now that I think about it. I think the other one came with an actual frog. This was, of course, a fan-made macaroon, and I got this as a gift from my friend Ryan. There's one that comes with a magnet, one that comes without. I'm going to go ahead and just put a magnet in that so he can hold that. And then there's, of course, the necklace, which, you know, we want to add just for, again, posability purposes. And that other GROGU came with a bowl. So if I mod this in such a way where I want him to, like, really be holding on to the bowl, I can add extra links. So this is what I was talking about. So let me pull some extra links. It pays to have a lot of these left over. So let's pull one on each. Come on, you bastard. When you get down to like one, they're really hard to pull. If I could just get one, give me one. Oh, I got one. Let's see if I can get one more. And I got a bunch of twos, and I can't do anything with it. Let me put them all back together, and then maybe I can just pull one off of it. Yeah, there we go. So now I've got one extra link in each, right? So let's say I pop this arm off at the second joint. Add another joint. And we curve it and bring it around. Do the same thing on this one. Pop it back in. Curve it and bring it around. Now, if I turn the palms up, because we do have that ability. Now he's holding his bowl. And so I can even show you what that looks like with the cloak on. Because that's how easy this is. It's a lot of fun, man. I gotta tell you, this mod was not very intense. I was very worried because you have to destroy it to do it. So I was very nervous to actually do it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna destroy this and regret it. But my fear was if I totally wrecked it, I sort of just told myself, well, at the very least, you could just glue it all back in place static in a different pose and call it a day and fill it with milliput or something like that. Brett's Groovy Chainsaws turned me on to milliput, so I knew that I could do that. And so that kind of made me feel a little better. I felt like there was an option at least. Just kind of put the bib in there and do the thing. Get the bib in there. And then that's all in there. And I may do some mods on this zipper too, because it's very visible at the legs, and I kind of want to change that. But by cutting the little, like, Jesus Christ, man, come on. All right, by cutting the fabric and giving those shoulders looseness, when I bring these arms around, I have that extra, like I said, that extra movement, because they're not tied. They're not tied down. They're not tied to that. Just make it a little higher. Kind of want him to look like he's begging a little bit. Do it that way. Do I want to do it a little further in? Now the fabric's a little bunchy, and just to make him cute, we'll tilt the head. What if we did it? We'll do it a little lower. It's fine. So now he's got his little food dish, and he's got that head tilt, which just makes him a little cuter. And that was a happy accident. I wasn't planning on that, but I just noticed that when I was building it, the head flopped over, and I was like, oh, if I sturdied this up a little bit, I could have head tilt. So that was kind of cool. And so, like I said, you get that sort of, that reach, but you got to be careful when you do this, because you got to pick your poses, because like I said, depending on how you do it, sometimes the arms might look too long. Now, at the moment, those extra joints don't seem to be hindering it too bad. I do think I may do a stitch in the back just to pull this up a little bit, but I wanted this to really hang on the floor. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. In the back here, when you take those two stitches out on the shoulders, this really drops. And so from the back, it can look like your GROGU is sort of all over the place in terms of, you know, disheveled, I guess is as good a word as any. But, you know, with those extra long arms, it does sort of have, there's an okayness to it. It's not the end of the world that they're a little long, because you can manipulate them a certain way, and it's okay. You got to pick which joints you want to use, because like I said, some of those are a little worn from the years of using it as a tripod. So some of them get a little sticky. But if you want to kind of have him, you know, do the force, and then have this arm down, You know, that looks pretty cool. My favorite thing to do is kind of put him behind the TV and have him kind of peek his head around like he's like this, and he's like, eh. And then so he's like blocked off like this, and he's just kind of reaching around the TV looking at you. You know, normally his head's up like this, and you can see what I'm talking about. You can see that joint. So you got to manipulate this in such a way that that's covered. But I'll solve that with a second false skin or something. This is, again, I literally finished this like the other day, and I just started playing with it. And you got to work with it. You know, you got to see what works, what doesn't. But I want this to sit a little higher. That's going to be dependent on shoulders. But by loosening this, the shoulders are less important because underneath they're very saggy. But by freeing this up from the shoulder joints, we get that sort of lift. So I'm really kind of happy with that. But you want them to kind of look down a little bit. You don't always want them like, what? So you bring them down. Like I said, I prefer the head tilt. I think that's kind of cute. Something else you can do is that sort of, you know, with the force hand, reaching out, doing the force, and it just has a really nice look. And I'm actually not against that extra joint. We just did this together for the first time. I didn't actually put the cloak on with the extra joint the first time. He's reaching for my Red 5 shirt. If you are in the East Longmeadow or Longmeadow area in Massachusetts, Red 5 Toys and Collectibles is one of the best places to get vintage Star Wars figures and modern figures. I love them to death. I just picked up some gear from them recently. And again, you know, the frog and everything. So I just think that this mod is absolutely worth it. If you have a Sideshow, it's not that hard. I'm even considering making myself available to do them as a commission for people's Sideshow. But you would assume all responsibility of sending it to me if that becomes the case. I am not taking responsibility for your shipping and all that. So that could be a little problematic for people. But I definitely, you know, I want people to be able to have the mod. I know that Cosplay Chris and some other people have done these mods. They've done the legs, like I said. I don't think it needs it. I think this looks great. I think this looks really fantastic. I'm actually really digging the extra arm joint, so I think I'm going to keep it for now. I'm not going to take it apart and put it back the way it was. We're going to keep those extra long arm joints, and it's even more fun that he can kind of bring his hands together and kind of be like, I want the, like, he can be chasing the frog, like, put his hands out, and, you know, you can set the little frog up to be jumping, and he's like, come here, you little bastard. So this is kind of cool. Nice little experiment that we just underwent. But just, I mean, look at that pose right there. Look how much more animated that looks. And if you're into stop motion and things like that, you can make an episode of Mando with this thing. It just, and if you have a cosplay and you are Mando, forget it. Like, if you're Cara Dune, if you're anybody from Mando, this just looks great. And especially when he's posable, because he can look up at me and be like, dude, are you going to end this video already? It's almost 20 minutes. And then he can look on the floor and be like, where's my food? You know, there's just, like I said, there's a lot of really great stuff with this. And just tweak that. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So like I said, you got to watch those joints because they do get a little, for lack of a better term, scoliosis. You move them around a lot, they can get a little bit like this, and that'll mess with your length and proportions. So you got to spend the time to remember that this isn't going to be like a figure. You got to go in and mod it to your liking. So I suggest figuring out what that looks like for you, how you want to display it in your home, and then you go in and you make that a reality, and you get a really nice result. And the fact that they already put wires in this means you can really kind of do it to your heart's content. Now, Adam Savage went in and showed us how to airbrush this and improve that. That is absolutely on my agenda as well. But overall, I'm really, really happy with Sideshow Collectibles GROGU as a base figure. But modded, 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10, hands down the best GROGU you could ask for. If you get a chance to acquire one, do it. And if you're happy with the Hot Toys, then be happy with the Hot Toys. There's nothing wrong with it. But to me, this is just the best version of this you could ever ask for. You guys have seen my mods on the Mattel, and that was a lot of fun, but it just isn't this. This is the best possible collector's item that anybody could hope for. This is a 1-to-1 scale. This is now posable. It looks screen ready. It looks like the kind of thing they would display in Launchpad or in a museum. And you could have that in your home. And as you guys know, I have a life-size Vader in my house for my costume. I have a life-size Yoda, which is currently on display at Red 5 Toys and Collectibles in Longmeadow, Mass. And this was just a great addition to my 1-to-1 scale stuff. I don't have a lot of it, but I was really happy to have that. You guys have all seen my half-scale pram and things like that. Really happy with this. Really happy with the result. Couldn't ask for more from Sideshow in terms of the quality of the sculpt. The cheeks were a little red, so I did go in and do with a simple baby wipe, get some of that off. And again, it looked great. And I'm not thrilled about the fact that you can see this little magnet on the outside of his hand, but as long as you magnetize something and put it in his hand, problem solved. You guys know it comes with the shifter knob. I feel like that shifter knob is a little small, so I may use the larger shifter knob or buy a custom one for that. But I've actually currently misplaced that shifter knob. I don't even know where the hell I put it. But it's not really that big a deal to me. I really wanted to do something with the frog. So this is why my GROGU, I want it to be different. So I'm going to do something with this frog, and that's what we're going to be doing. And so I'm very, very excited for that. But yeah, these tripods, and they come with this kind of a top base that snaps off. This is the most important reason I liked picking this up, because this was not something that was fixed. You could pop this off, and then what was left, that base of the 3 legs, that's what I used to form the base, where the head was one leg and the 2 arms were the other legs. So that is why I really like these tripods, because they're not only adjustable, they're not only length adjustable, they not only come apart, but the base can snap off, and you can actually make a really great base. If you get one that has one of these that can't be taken apart, my recommendation is to put it in upside down and glue this down and make that your base, which you can also do with some of the ones. So if you've already purchased one and it's not separatable, that's cool. You could still do it. You just got to do it upside down. So not that big a deal. Overall, really happy. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this little showing off of how I modded my Sideshow GROGU. Hopefully, we'll all be super thrilled with Obi-Wan. I'm very excited about it. I mean, Vader, is coming back. I don't care how they do it. He's in it. I'm happy. So we have Obi-Wan. I'm really pumped about that. I'm currently really enjoying the Lego Star Wars game. If you haven't bought that game yet, you should buy that game. It's the only game I can get my wife to play with me, and we are just hammering through free play right now, the original trilogy, before we move on to the prequels, taking us into the sequels, which is our favorite characters. So yeah, sacrilege, but you know what? I don't care. I'm married. We like it. Leave us alone. So we're going to really enjoy getting our way to that. But I very much recommend doing this. I will be doing another one of these for a good friend of mine. I would not own this if he didn't buy one. He's the one who really kind of tipped me over the scales, and it was like, okay, I need to acquire this. And so I am going to absolutely do this mod for him as well. And I'll do it happily. And I may make myself available to do it for some of you if you want. So it really will depend on my build schedule, how many Necronomicons I have coming out and whatnot. I have a very special Necro build coming up that I'll be doing on the Knights of Samaria page exclusively. Actually, sorry about that. I don't know why I was continuing to talk off camera. So again, I'll be doing that build exclusively on the Knights of Samaria page, as I do with most of my Evil Dead stuff. I will try to get some of it to here so you can see kind of what I was working on, but the thing I keep doing, like I said in my last video, is every time I post a Necronomicon on YouTube, people hit me up with, hey, will you make me one? No. The reason being is that every time I, in my group, post a Necro order run, it fills up in about a day, and it's not cheap. So the fact that many people jump on it that quick means I don't really need to go to YouTube or to RPF or outside of my group to fill those orders and get it to those fans. I prefer to give it to the fans who support the group and support us, and I'm happy with that. So if you want one, join the group, wait for me to post a run, but don't ask me on here because my answer is going to be no. If you are interested in getting a really good Necronomicon with quality pages, some of the members in the group are starting to become a little bit of a builder. In particular, if you want an Army of Darkness Necronomicon, this sucker, I recommend reaching out to John Thomas, and I will link his Instagram in the description at some point after I've posted this, this particular book with pages, Sullivan work-based pages, not Elder Props pages, not Elder Props, real pages with real Sullivan text, not bullscrit, real pages, his own interpretation of what they could have looked like, also a few that were actually in AOD's Necro, which have never been released before. We got them from the production manager, are featured in his set. So if you want the most realistic AOD that we know of to date, that even contains the 3 pages we knew for a fact were in there, well, 4. Well, 5 if you count the portal page. We'll go with 5. If you want the ones with the 5 pages we actually saw in deleted scenes and that we know from the production manager, John Thomas is going to be your guy. You'll have to provide him with the cover, but he will put those pages in for you, and they'll look great. And I would put his pages in my own book, and I probably will, to be honest with you. So he has my seal of approval. So he's a great guy to reach out to and get your book made. If you need some lost pages, great collectors there as well. He does great lost pages. So I would absolutely recommend you reach out to him for your Necro needs. Aved, I'm the only guy doing it, and doing it well, I should say. I've seen some other people's version. They either nail the cover or they nail the pages. Nobody nails both, and nobody has the volume of pages that I have. But like I said, it's in demand, so I'm not looking to fill extra orders. But join the Knights of Samaria if you're interested in that. That's where you'll find me. That's where you'll find me playing Evil Dead the game. That's where you'll find all Evil Dead related stuff for our group. We recently just had a nice little shout-out type deal on the Hail to the Deadites podcast from the producers of Evil Dead the game, because they fancied some of our work, which was very, very cool. Thank you to Crystal Hamilton to showing off that work. Appreciate that. And like I said, May the 4th be with you. This is the May.